So contrary to popular belief, W-2 income earners do not benefit that much from the tax savings of real estate. That's because they cannot use bonus depreciation on their investment. I'm not a CPA, so please check with their CPA. But their tax depreciation on the real estate, it's as if its own ledger, its own column. It's sitting there as negative until they have a real estate capital gain in which they can offset. So their benefit is to postpone that paying taxes almost indefinitely, but they cannot offset their W-2. It has some benefit in terms of tax advantage, but it's not that big as opposed to if you are a real estate professional, if that makes sense.
You're listening to the Guerrilla State Investing Podcast. We're not here to bruise your bananas with guru sales pitches, overrated fluff, or any other kind of monkey business. We simply provide the ground-pounding truth about what it takes to be successful in real estate.
All right, today's guest is Perry Zhang, the CEO and founder of the Cashflow Portal, engineering manager at Lyft. He's got 6 single-family houses up in Washington, and he's also involved in 1,500 units through a syndications, 580 in which he's the lead syndicator, one of which you're the KP, right? Perry, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, man. So as I hear it, you grew up you came to America when you were 11 years old from China. Is that correct?
Yep.
Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about from there, where you went to college, how you got started, and then what made you go from the tech industry to the real estate world?
Yeah, good question. So I came here when I was 11 years old. My parents and I have an American Chinese restaurant back in Atlanta, Georgia. I went to high school in Georgia and Louisville, Kentucky. Then I went to Duke for college, was there from 2006 to 2010, graduated with a computer science degree and econ degree and a minor in math. Then I migrated to Seattle, Washington for my first job. In Seattle, I work as a software engineer in a few companies was at Amazon and Twitter, and then eventually settled down at Lyft. I have been at Lyft for about 5 years. About 3 years ago, I became an engineering manager. And so software engineering most of my life. And then the last couple of 3 years, I've been an engineering manager, managing right now a team of 8 to 9 people.
Okay, so how does that segue into the real estate world? Did you buy a piece of property and say, "Oh, I like this," or did you actually say, "I think my tech skills translate well into what's pretty much an old and tired, pretty much a simple man's way to invest, which is real estate"?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, story is kind of similar to you, which is I started by house hacking. I was buying my first condo in San Francisco. And the way I bought that one was literally that I will be paying less in my rent. The rooms I rent out minus the mortgage, that's my effective rent. I'll be paying less in that than if I were to just rent. So there was no investing involved. I don't know what a return on investment is, IRR is. I did that back in 2015, 2016. So I bought that condo. I rent out the other 2 rooms. I found out that this is actually not that hard. I don't mind living with housemates. I'm single. And so I kept doing it. So then I moved back to Seattle, Washington. I start buying one house at a time every 12 months ish. And I buy these 5 bedrooms, rent out the other 4. I live in the master. And then 10 months later, I buy another one. And it's easy because every time when I move out, I was making about $500 of cash flow on each one of those properties. And it snowballs after a point. Yeah.
Okay. And so you went from owning, now it's 6 single family houses in Washington. What made you get started? I mean, did you jump straight from there to syndications as a limited partner?
Yeah, good question. So we dabble on a small multifamily before I go full steam on syndication. I bought my business partner and I bought a 7-unit plex in Washington State, Tacoma, Washington. Bought it for $540,000, sold it 18 months later for $900,000. And so we felt that we we did spend 120,000, 130,000 renovating the place. So, but it was a small syndication, and we actually were the GP at that thing, quote unquote. And the LPs were getting about 68% return over the course of 18 months. So I was like, oh, this is really awesome. And honestly, I think that was just pure luck because the market is going crazy. So we tried to scale up from 7 unit to like 60 unit and then 100 unit. But we scaled up a little bit too fast. We went from 7 unit and the next deal was 172 unit. That's a different story. And then the next deal was a 408 unit. So my advice is don't go from 7 to 17 and then go to 27. Go from 7 to like 100 and then go into like 300, 400. So let me ask you this: did you know you were syndicating that 7 unit, or did it just happen to be we need some money, we're going to borrow from some people? I did not know we were syndicating, and truth be told, it was more of a
joint venture.
I didn't know what we were doing. It was basically a joint venture. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the investors probably pretty happy. I mean, so let me ask you this, because you have syndicated too. I've been told that anything at about the $2 million or below is kind of like the threshold between joint ventures and syndications. If it's above $2 million, it's got enough meat in the bone to justify doing a syndication. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that that's truth or no?
Okay, I think there are two components. One is the legal component and one is the business component. From a legal component, technically everything you do when you're trying to raise money is called syndication, which means you have to have a PPM, private placement memorandum, and a legal contract. Because you're essentially selling securities. Okay, that's the first part. The second, that's the legal component. So either way, 2 million or up below or above, it's still considered syndication. That's the textbook definition. From a business point of view, if it's below 2 million, you just don't have the money to spend it on drafting a legal document. It's a waste of time. And so from a business point of view, sometimes people just call it joint venture. It's a gray area. I'm not an attorney. So going forward, even if it's a 100K raise, I will still do a proper private placement memorandum. That's my opinion.
Even if it's $100,000 investment, you still do PPM on it.
Yeah, I will do that just to cover my butts.
If you're raising money, right? Like if you're doing it by yourself, obviously you don't need to do PPM.
And the question is, do I want to go the syndication route? Is if it's a 500K raise, right? Or do I want to just do debt? With that, there's no private placement memorandum going on.
So if you wouldn't mind explaining that a bit, because whenever your syndication partners, yes, it's good to have people in the syndication so you can do bigger deals, but kind of talk about like how expensive it is to have those limited partners. Do you pay more to them or would you pay more to a bank that holds debt?
Yeah, I will pay more to the bank that holds debt because the bank is a soulless entity. As long as you don't get into trouble, you don't have a reputation risk, right? With the bank, unless you go foreclosure and going bankrupt, the bank could care less because they're getting paid and their upside is not that high. Whereas, especially with your first deal, if you're going with passive investment, especially if you don't know exactly what you're doing and you're not that confident, suppose you promise 15% annualized return and you hit 9%, which is way better than the stock market, but they will still get pissed off. And so there's reputation management at stake. So be careful when you are not confident and playing with fire and playing with other people's money. Another case in point, during our first syndication, for the first 3 months, we had a large capital expenditure and we had to do a ton of work. It's going slower than I thought. And because of the renovation going on, we saw a big dip in our occupancy level. That winter, I was freaking out. I was prepared to send this email, knowing there will be a lot of backlash and asking me, why are you, why is the occupancy dropping again this month? I sent it. Nobody said any word. Some people wish me Merry Christmas. And then they just said, like, I don't care. Why give the money to you? I trust you. But even if the point I'm trying to make is, even if your passive investors do not complain, you feel that immense pressure when you're dealing with investors.
I think that's good though, right? I mean, that's accountability as a syndicator to do or to make do on your promises, right? When you say that you were running behind, on your syndication, you talking about the 7 unit or the 100+ unit?
172 units. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So jumping from 17 units to 172 plus. Mentally, how did you just make that decision? This is what I'm going to do today is jump to 170. Did the deal fall in your lap? Were you looking for 100+ units? Were you brought in on that deal, or were you the lead syndicator on it? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. We were the lead syndicator. We found it. We closed it. We fought for it. There was almost like just my business partner and I were involved. So we're really proud of it. We totally outdid ourselves on that first deal. Even I admit, if you look at how much the sponsors earn, we earn more than what we should be earning on our second or third deal. Most people don't make it like this big on their first deal. Yeah. And why? I think it's a combination of dumb luck and persistence. The dumb luck was that we were trying to go after 60 units and 80 units, and we kept getting outbid on those deals. The problem with those 60, 70 units is every new investor thought that those are the things they should be doing. So there is more competition among the 60 to the 80 units. And we kept getting outbid. After 6 months of that struggle, we said to ourselves, what's the difference in underwriting between an 80 unit versus a 172 unit? What is the legal work involved? What is the property management company hunting involved? It's the same property management company. It's the same legal team. It's the same due diligence. You just have more units. There's almost no difference in work between an 80 unit and a 172 unit from an asset manager's perspective. Then we said to ourselves, why are we looking at 80 units? Why don't we look at 150+ units? Yeah, if we're going to lose, we might also lose in the big arena than trying to lose in the small arena, right? And so that's the same way I think about my startup. Most people think of their startup as, I'm going to create a white label tool that helps syndicators raise more money. But that's a small arena. If it's a saturated market, why do I even compete in this small arena? If I want to die, I don't want to die I want to put my best effort on the biggest arena. And even if I lose, at least I make a small attempt on it. So the expected value of spending your time on a 150+ unit is more. Because if you do win it, your reward is higher. So after 6 months of like dumb luck, the dumb luck is we kept losing for the first 6 months. If we want to deal within the 6 months, we will not have gotten a big deal from the beginning. The persistence is that you don't give up after 6 months.
So what about the capital raise on that? Did you have any, I don't know if being in the tech industry, you probably have access to quite a few high net worth W-2 people who are trying to preserve their capital and not pay as much as taxes. That had to be some sort of confidence boost on being able to raise the money. Is that the case, or did you guys have difficulty raising the money?
Yeah. I had not much trouble raising money. And that's also one of my differentiating factors in a way, that I work in tech. And because I have good income, I know my network has good income, and they have been asking me for years that if you have a deal, please allow us to invest. I told them for 6 months straight that I don't have a deal. So they knew I have all these single families. They know that I'm willing to live with 4 housemates just so I can make progress on my real estate career. So they know how determined I am. So reputation matters. Being lucky in the right place at the right time matters. In the tech industry matters. And my performance on my job is not bad. So people have trust on that. Yeah. So
you just said the words, my high net worth friend said, when you have a deal, please let me invest. I think those would be the words that any syndicator would love to hear. I mean, that you're in the right place at the right time. I think people who work with you are got to be constantly looking for ways to save on their taxes, and their expectations on their returns are probably not as high as any other job profession, maybe like doctors and lawyers and anybody with a high W-2 income. Their biggest interest is the tax savings, correct? Am I wrong in saying that?
Good question. So contrary to popular belief, W-2 income earners do not benefit that much from the tax savings of real estate. That's because they cannot use bonus depreciation on their investment to offset their W-2 income. I'm not a CPA, so please check with their CPA. But their tax depreciation on the real estate, it's as if its own ledger, its own column. It's sitting there as negative until they have a real estate capital gain in which they can offset. So their benefit is to postpone that paying taxes almost indefinitely, but they cannot offset their W-2. So it has some benefit in terms of tax advantage, but it's not that big as opposed to if you are a real estate professional, if that makes sense.
Okay, that does make sense. But what about if they are using self-directed IRAs or anything like that? Did you on your first capital raise get a lot of people investing from their retirement accounts, or was it based on their savings accounts?
Yeah, that's a great question. On our first raise, only 3 people have like retirement accounts that invest with retirement. On the second deal, we have a lot of repeat investors. We have like maybe about 70% of the initial batch that invest in the first deal invest in the second deal. So the second deal was raised within like 48 hours. So that's, I'm really proud of that. But on the second deal, the people that were cash investors found out that they can invest with IRA. So some of them start doing IRA on the second deal.
Okay. And did you even, like when you were first putting together your original syndication, was that even on the forefronts of your thought process, or were you thinking, nope, we need to raise cash?
Yeah. To this day, I tell people that investing in cash is better for you. I keep telling people that if you invest in IRA, be prepared for these yearly costs, and you have to do so much tax work to make sure that this, like all the taxes, this form IRA is all filled out. I don't remember exactly which one it is. Basically, it's business unrelated tax, income tax or whatever. I tell people there's too much paperwork in IRA. And I don't think IRA is honestly worth it, but people keep doing it. And so I cannot prevent that. So I don't actively encourage people to invest with IRA. That's my personal opinion.
Were you doing 506Cs for your first syndication?
Both of them are 506Bs.
Bs? Okay. So you did 174 unit with a 506B on your first syndication.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, you're tapped into some funds, brother. Your friends have got some scratch. If I went around to all my friends and family, man, I'd be able to buy like a fourplex.
Sure.
Yeah, that's good for you though. That's great. That's great.
I think we can talk about that at the end. I think the limited mindset is people feel like there's not enough money that they can raise. And I can honestly tell you that if you are a good syndicator, raising equity should not be your primary job. This is so bad for the economy that people are spending more time trying to raise money than trying to spend time making sure that their property runs smoothly. It's a misallocation of someone's resource, right? A good syndicator is not the one who can raise money. A good syndicator is the one who can manage their property to the best of its potential. I wish people spend more time doing that than trying to I'm going to create a website. I'm going to create this, amazing outreach program so I can get more passive investors, because that's the time not spent on making the property better.
See, I think myself, I guess for my background, I started out at the ground level of just buying multifamily properties and running them, and they're small multifamily properties. So me and you kind of come from different ends of the spectrum. You did start out with your 6 units in house hack. We have pretty similar background, because I bought my first unit. My first commercial unit was a 7-unit apartment complex. But from there, the being able to raise capital for 100 plus units Maybe it's a limiting belief. Maybe it's a glass ceiling. It very well could be. Maybe I haven't met the right people and they have access to capital and I've got access to deals. But I do agree with you. If you are not good at, if you can't execute a business plan, you've got no business raising other people's money because you don't know it. You're not mature enough to know what to do with it. Yeah. So I agree 100% on that. And I think understanding systems, really understanding relationships with people. Yeah. Property managers, with brokers. If you're not good at building relationships with people, you're not going to be able to build trust. And then people who don't trust you aren't going to put their money into you.
That's right. So, it's a chicken and egg because you're afraid of going after the big deals because you don't know if you can raise the money, but then you don't really have the track record to raise the money. So it's a chicken and egg. Chicken
and the egg, man. I've heard that phrase a bunch lately.
Yeah.
Well, Perry, tell me, let's transition to talk about what it is that you've created with your tech background for syndicators to make their life easier. So you've got this thing called the Cashflow Portal. Yeah. You showed it to me a little bit before the show. I think the analogy I made is it looks like social media for syndicators and passive investors. Don't know how accurate that is, but it definitely had a great dashboard. It looked like it would make life easier. In the least technical terms that you could, can you explain it to us on what it is and what it can do for us?
Yeah. So Cashflow Portal, you can think of it as a platform, a dating site for syndicators and passive investors. You can think of it as the Robinhood of real estate. It is essentially allow passive investors to discover new syndicators. Syndicators cannot go out and just keep banging on the passive investor door. It is a one-way discovery. Passive investors can look at who are the syndicators on the platform and they can connect with whichever they like. Okay. And so we try to solve two problems. From a syndicator problem is syndicators, their number one desire is to be able to raise enough equity and to expand their investor network. That's a burning desire for new syndicators and for experienced syndicator as well. And which is the second problem is trying to solve is I know 100% that there are upper middle class people like myself, like my friends, like the people I interact with every day. They have reasonable amount of cash that they can only put into the stock market and crypto. That's it. They desperately want something that they can put into real estate. The only way they invest in real estate right now is wait until they have $400,000 of cash so they can buy a single family or $200K in cash so they can buy a single family in Seattle and San Francisco or Austin. And even if they do that, they don't have the energy or the expertise to manage it.
Yeah.
I do not understand why they need $200K to invest in real estate. Those are the problems that we're trying to solve. And so I want these people to get to know real estate more, to get to know this world of real estate syndication. They are smart, they know the numbers, and I want them to meet more trustworthy syndicators. So it's the Robinhood for real estate. It's almost like a dating website where this passive investors can discover syndicators. The reason I'm not doing the other way around is that syndicators should never be poaching other syndicators investors. So there's no way for you to discover who are the passive investors. They have to find you.
Okay, it kind of sounds like the Bumble, where the girls have to swipe right on the boys, and then the boys finally get access. Right? It's kind of the same concept, right?
I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe you can tell me, we haven't actually talked about this much, but you can tell me the feedback.
It makes sense to me because let me just say this: I've not been an LP in a syndication, but I can tell you one thing I hate feeling like is that I'm being sold. I feel like I hate when people are selling something to me, even though I buy things. There's products out there that I want, but the moment I feel like somebody's sending me something in my inbox, I don't open any of it. If somebody invites me, I don't know. I don't know how they get to me, but if I'm feel like I can snoop and I can check you out on the back end and I like what you got going on and I approach you, well, now two things happen. One, I'm a hot lead because you know that I want your business. And two, I feel like I'm in control of the decision because I've found you and I feel like I need your help. I cannot stand whenever somebody comes trying to sell me something. And that it sounds like a pretty decent approach, where if you're a passive investor, you don't put your name into something and get 40 different syndicators trying to contact you.
That's right.
I agree with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's
well, cool. So, do you mind? How long has Cashflow Portal been up and running?
So we have been in operation for a year. And just to be clear, the thing that we are charting is in beta. So contact me for access. We will, if you're a syndicator, we'll create I'll wait until the end to do, whatever, SaaS, whatever. But it's been there for a year. We built out the logistics of raising equity. So we have the ability to integrate with documents, to signatures, to create a class, add pictures, create a landing page, to add soft commitments. And then after that, we can run distributions and share documents, as well as send emails about monthly updates. So those are the things we have done. We have not made it into a social platform yet. But that's in our roadmap in the next couple of months, and we are that's currently in beta.
How much time do you have invested into the Cashflow Portal?
I invest more than $300K so far in terms of money. I spend about 15 hours a week on it because I still have a full-time job. And people ask me, Perry, if you're so passionate about this idea, why don't you quit your job? The answer is I'm funding, this startup out of my money. I'm not raising any capital yet. If this is a big idea, which I know it is, we might. Not quitting my job, I don't think it's a lack of commitment. It's more that if I don't quit my job, I can fund this startup indefinitely. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. The people who say, it's almost like they're trying to test you out. Hey, are you really passionate if you still have your job? Well, hey man, I can be passionate about two things at once. Right? I'm guessing you went to college and you got your software engineering degree because you love tech. Why would you exit tech just to get into real estate? Real estate, in my opinion, is the perfect side hustle until you're ready to make that leap. I've been in the military for 15 years. It would be foolish of me to get out of the military and give up the benefits that my family has, the lifestyle that we have. And not only that, I love my job. I get to jump out of airplanes. I get to blow stuff up. I get to scuba dive. I get to do pretty much all the stuff that I would get out of the military and pay to go do. I get paid to do it. So I'm not getting out until I hit my 20-year mark. And then I'll probably be full-time real estate. But all those haters out there, man, that's their plan. That ain't your plan. Don't listen to that.
Yeah, I have two comments to that. You're doing exactly right. And being in military allows you to get these like credit card and loan benefits that people outside of military just don't have access to. Right? You even get like priority boarding in airports and airplanes. Yeah. So that's awesome. And the second thing, you're absolutely right. People tend to view quitting your job as the end goal be all, and they try to celebrate, wow, someone so-and-so quit their W-2 job. In my opinion, if you don't want to put in the time to do real estate on the side, you probably don't have what it takes to do it full time either. But you have to be interested in it enough such that you feel happy doing both things. The same thing with startup. Someone told me that if you're not passionate about doing your startup in late nights and weekends, then you're not passionate enough about the mission. Then you please do not quit your job to do your startup until you made reasonable progress on it. And then you quit and then go all in. Yeah. So
that makes perfect sense. I like that you said that. I can agree to that. So you mentioned credit cards, and I read one of your articles about credit cards for syndicators. And you're right, like it being in the military, for those of you guys that don't know, the military gets, we get the American Express Platinum, which is like a $500 membership a year. That gets waived. We get free $15 a month and free Uber rides from that. If you see a bunch of broke looking people in the Centurion Lounge, it's probably a bunch of military people because they give it to us for free, which, hey, it's a good deal. Free drinks, free food. When I travel, I look like a baller. I dress like a regular dude, but I look like a baller because of where I sit. I'm not charging my phone in Gen Pop. Ew, gross. I'm going to I literally plan my flights based on where has a Centurion Lounge, where has priority pass, brother. I know how to travel. If there's one thing military folks know how to do, we know how to travel. We do it right. But for everybody who's not in the military, who is doing syndications or just has real estate expenses and has to, maybe they live in a city that is high equity but low cash flow, and they like to invest in cash flow areas, so they have to flights, travel around. What are your thoughts on that, and why did you write that article? You must be passionate about it.
Yeah. So for those of you who haven't read the article, it's basically about how having a lot of credit cards, premium credit cards, allows me to travel to Hawaii and other places with my family for free. Plane tickets for all three of us, and free hotels at Ritz-Carlton, free in quotation marks, because those are the credit card points we earn over that year by putting that money into expenses in real estate that we normally will spend anyway. It's got some very interesting traction. I send these newsletters to my investors every month. And that article actually was clicked on the most, including Neil Bao, who sent me a very personal email saying, hey, out of all the links, this is the link that I like the most, and I want to set up a call with you. It's like pretty cool that people read my my blogs. So how would you use, read the article, go to, cashflowportal.com and look at the blog section and check out the article. But I have basically every car possible. I do have to pay those annual fees. So yeah, that's cool that you don't. That's really, really awesome. I actually, might be a tangent. I wonder what is the business benefit for Chase and American Express to subsidize military fees, fees for the military. Is that the government pays money to subsidize it? Or that American Express felt like that's a good PR, that we're able to make more money out of this PR than charging fees for the military folks? I don't know. Yeah.
I really couldn't tell you the answer, because for military travel, like if you're traveling on military orders, we have to use, typically it's usually a Citibank travel card that the military, we're responsible for it, but the military pays all of it back, and we don't get any points from that.
Sure.
But the Amex, there used to be a Barclays that did it as well. To be honest, I don't see them publicizing the military discount. It's just kind of like a known thing. If you're in the military, you have to apply for it. It's not like they don't send us in the mail saying that you can get this off. But it is an amazing thing. Like I called the other day and upped my balance to like, I don't know, it was like 25 grand just because I wanted to buy one thing that I was going to buy cash anyway. So I paid for it on Amex, $20,000. I paid that off immediately and got 5 times points. It was enough to pay for my plane ticket to Virginia the other day. Get this. And whenever we stay overseas in the military, a lot of the times there's a government rate at some of like Marriott's. They might charge $250 to a non-military person, but they have a government rate. So if you're on orders, you can stay there for whatever the local government rate is. Say it's $150. Yeah. So I stayed at the Ritz-Carlton in Bahrain for 40 nights, brother. 40 nights at the Ritz-Carlton. And it was during Bonvoy's double points, double nights promotional, which happens in like,
that's right,
March through August or March through April. That's right. You get it. Came home getting ready to stay at a Sheraton for another 2 months out in Guam. Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, if you're not on this, if you're already going to spend the money, you put your gas money on it and just pay it off every month. You get points. You travel for free.
Yeah. Do you use a Bonvoy credit card for Bonvoy stays or for Marriott Hotel, or you using your Amex card for everything?
Brother, I got the Bonvoy.
Brilliant.
I got signed up for it was 125,000 points. They just signed me up.
That's right.
All I had to do was spend $3,000 in the first 3 months.
That's right.
Yeah, I spent that in the first 3 days, and then then I got the Amex, and it's no different. Either card, they got this. I go onto the American Express app, and they're both right there. It doesn't matter which one I use. But I do like, if I'm at a Bonvoy, if I'm at a Marriott hotel, I'll use the Bonvoy. If I'm flying, I'll use Amex.
That's right. Exactly. They're both Amex. One is a brilliant card. Yeah. I got the titanium status on my Marriott. I'm sure you do if you stay 40 something nights in it. And then I'm working on my Hyatt Globalist status. So
there you go.
Because they have that special. If you only need to stay 30 nights instead of 60 nights to hit that status.
Now, is that now you're doing that because to bring it back into real estate, because most of your syndications are in Texas, correct? And you live in Washington. Right. So you do have expenses to go down there, check on your properties, meet with people. You have gas, rental car, flights, hotels. All those are military expenses, or not military, I think real estate expenses. And so you put them on your credit card.
That's right.
They're tax deductible because I keep saying military because it is a real estate related expense, and then you get the points.
That's right. So the way you can do a quick math will be, if you take Lyft rides, and the Chase Reserve has these Lyft rides promotions, right? And so a quick math is a Lyft ride, say is a $20 Lyft ride, you get 15% off because you have Lyft Pink. That's part of the Chase Reserve, benefit. Then you earn 10x Chase points, which is effectively, 15% off, right? So you literally have 30% off at this point. Because it's a business expense, you can probably deduct another 25% off that. So you basically, if you're traveling on, business for real estate and you're taking a Lyft ride, it's all the Lyft rides are basically 50% off. That's the way I think about it, right? That's pretty much what that means. See, it's just it all adds up, and then the points add up over time too. And like you said, you take a trip with your family, because I'm not investing in real estate so that I can work every night doing podcasts, talking to people like you. I'm doing it so that I can go hang out with my family in Hawaii, brother. You know what I mean? I love you, Perry, but you're not the reason I'm investing in real estate. So if you can go ahead and get it done on a credit card just by visiting your places, you might as well do it. Yeah.
All right, well, what else, Perry? What else we got going on here? We talked about the Cashflow Portal. We talked about the credit cards, did some syndication discussions. What else you got going on? What's the next move for you?
Next move is I am looking, I'm trying to build out the business. We actually cover some very interesting topics, by the way. So kudos to you of doing the homework of I was surprised that you read the article. So appreciate that. That's really awesome. I think I would love to, I would love to know why you created this podcast in the first place. What is the mission for creating this podcast? Is it to just get to know someone who's interesting, and why not make a podcast out of it? Or second is to educate passive investors to know about multifamily syndication. Or third is to, you have a curious mind and you want to kind of know about different kinds of people, maybe all of them.
I think it's actually all three, but in that priority as well. So the first thing is to create relationships. Like the listeners, I hope you're out there. And I think if really I'm trying to educate myself by speaking to people like yourself, Perry. And I think that if I'm learning something, that the listeners would learn it too. But more importantly, I'm trying to establish relationships. And I think if me and the guests establish a relationship, then the listeners will be able to feel that as well. I'm also very curious into tonight was hoping to talk about the Cashflow Portal and your background, and we ended up talking more about credit cards, and I'm happy with that because it's something new. I've thought about it. I usually think about it just for military travel, but I have not necessarily considered it for my real estate expenses because I have those on a completely different account and don't really like mixing it. But there's nothing saying I can't get a second Amex that's specifically for real estate expenses. In fact, I have two of them.
Yeah.
But I started this podcast to be able. Honestly, it's a good, and in all honesty, it's a good ticket. Like reasons for us to get together and have a conversation, because we probably wouldn't have this phone call if it was just me and you and there was no podcast. You know what I mean? It's just it's a good venue. Yeah. But secondly, the benefit from that is building relationships, learning things. And then if we can get some listeners to learn something too, then that's a triple whammy.
Yeah. Sounds good.
But yeah. That's pretty much about this. So the question I like to ask everybody before we start trying to wrap up the show, in your opinion, like this is the Gorilla State podcast, and we like to talk about what bruises our bananas. All right. So in your opinion, what is the biggest lie being told in real estate? What is a lie that really bruises Perry Zhang's bananas?
I did a lot of soul searching for the last couple weeks or couple months. And this might be, publicly to share on the podcast or too publicly or not. But I'll give you some context. But the TLDR is, I think one of the limited mindsets in our society is that syndicators felt like their investors are untouchable. As in, if I spend the time and cultivating these relationships with my passive investors, they're my passive investors. Nobody can poach them. I'm so afraid of using any software or anything that will potentially expose my passive investors to the world. I felt that is a limited mindset. And I think that's being indoctrinated by tens of hundreds of years that real estate belongs to the upper 1%. And it takes a long time, and it might take a revolution to undo that indoctrination. So I like to think of it, there's a lot of old money in real estate. And the old syndicators still think that way because they're self-sufficient. They raise a ton of capital and they want to keep that secret. Whereas there's that kind of new money. And part of it is being accelerated by COVID. I know a lot of people, young people, even if they're not necessarily wealthy, they like to YOLO. They like to invest in Dogecoin. They like to just have fun and make investing fun. And they don't have access to real estate. They could not even dream about buying a piece of real estate until they are in their early 30s, if they are consistently working regular W-2 job, right? So the limited mindset is, I feel like experienced real estate syndicators have a pretty limited mindset. They are always afraid of getting snooped around, and they will sue you. They will use suing as a mechanism to get what they want. I have not been sued. I want to knock on wood. I want to stay it that way. But I see a lot of that resistance when I start doing this software. And so I like doing this, creating this new wave of new blood, of new money, of people who invest in real estate that is based on transparency and based on cool and fun. Because if you are not a good syndicator, you should be out by the society. People should really just say you're not good and you shouldn't be raised that much money. If you're really, really good, then you shouldn't be spending time your equity raising. You should be, equity raising should be really easy for you. You should have unlimited amount of capital, access to capital. But what happens today is there are syndicators who are not that good, but because of they built up such mass gathering, they just have access to capital that the good ones don't have. Maybe like you and me. So I hope that we are the new syndicators, going 10 years or 20 years from now. Yeah, maybe I'm speaking a lot of gibberish right now, but it's something that's been on my mind for the last couple of months.
Have you ever heard the quote, scarcity mindset creates scarcity?
Yeah. I have not heard that quote, but that's a really good quote. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I heard that quote early on, and it made a lot of sense to me because there's people who come up with their training programs, and then one of the things I can't stand is buy my training program, right? I get it. You put a lot of time into it. You put it together. You deserve that. But there's a lot of stuff that if you just shared with people, that it would come back around. They would want to be in your network. The moment somebody says there's a fee to be in my mastermind class, I want to puke. I just I want to throw up. And you mentioned the Cashflow Portal. You mentioned it's free to use. Is that correct?
It's free to use. Yeah.
It's free to use. So what do you got to lose?
You mean, how do I make money?
No. I mean, if you use it, what do you got to lose? And I guess that's the hesitation is, well, if I put my passive investors on there, I could potentially lose them.
You also want to lose them because nobody can discover them unless your passive investor take the chance and snook around and see what other syndicators they like better.
Oh, they're worried about them finding other syndicators on. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. That is the fixed mindset that I don't think is cool. I don't know. Maybe that is something that I cannot change, and I just have to find people who have nothing to lose, and then let them, taste the sweet. And then eventually, once it becomes popular, if this has 1 million users, then I will, everyone should happily give up their 1,000 investors, which are not poachable, in exchange to having access to 1 million investors, right? So at some point, the risk reward is in syndicators' favor to sign up. But in the meantime, the initial users are probably the people who have nothing to lose. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. So let me ask you this: are you working on any deals right now?
Right now, I am. We're actively looking for deals, but we're probably gonna do a deal in July or in a few months.
You got one coming down the pipe, or that's whenever you're looking to go find one?
That's when we are looking to get something under contract. We are looking right now, but we don't have anything in the pipeline.
Well, what if I find you a deal and I need to tap into some of your cash? I can bring you a deal and you'll KP for me?
That's a good question. So I don't want to promise things on podcasts.
I'm asking because if somebody wants to tap into you.
Here's an example of what the growth mindset looks like. On this website, my investors are on it. I'm telling all my friends to sign up. I could very much say they are my investors, don't touch them. But I have no qualms of them finding your profile on the site and they schedule a call with you. Because, if they want to be, I don't know if I should use this analogy. If my investors are being unfaithful, go ahead, be unfaithful. Right. So, and if I have a good deal, they will still invest with me. So I'm totally fine. Yeah. So I'm literally using my passive investors as guinea pig. So yeah, if you have a good profile, they might want to talk to you, right? And I have no qualms of preventing that from happening. Yeah.
Fair enough. So if you got some deals coming down the pipeline, go to the Cashflow Portal, create yourself an account, and then what you have it on there where you can post past deals, you can post podcasts that you've been on, you can basically create a profile, and then passive investors check you out and decide if they want to invest with you. Now, all of these investors, in order for them to sign up, do they have to be accredited investors to even create a profile, or would there have to be a separate back-end portal where you create that relationship with them and they can invest as a
good question? 506B? So by them being on your database, what they will say is you don't know them. So you still have to create the substantive relationship. So if you're doing 506C, you two better have chat 3 times before they invest in your deal, right? If you're doing 506C, all bets are off, right? So I'm not creating a SEC non-compliant. I'm just creating a dating website in a way, right? Which people are normally on Facebook. There are a lot of people posting on Facebook, Ami on Facebook. They're essentially creating their relationship. I'm formalizing it.
Okay. All right. Perry, how can people get a hold to you? What's the best way? Yeah.
The best way is to contact me at perry@cashflowportal.com. That's perry@cashflowportal.com. They can also find me on Facebook, just Perry Zheng. You do need an invitation to create your own profile because that is limited access and beta. So contact me if you want that. And feel free to just ask me how to raise equity and whatnot. Yeah, we have a webinar every month and you can ask me for that. I'm getting pretty excited about this idea of democratizing real estate syndication that help both people wanting to raise money and people who have money and don't know what to do with it. I can tell you for sure that there is that second group a lot.
Introduce me to them. Yeah. Well, Perry, it's been an awesome episode, man. Very interesting how you mesh the tech world with the real estate world. There's not too many people doing that. I think the real estate world is kind of just an old and tired world, and people like you can freshen it up quite a bit. So I appreciate having you on the show. Thanks for coming, my brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Ramsey. Good to have you.
Thanks for listening to the Gorilla State Investing Podcast, where we give you the ground-pounding truth about what it takes to be successful in real estate. Learn more at realfocus.org/GorillaStatePod.